Hello, I'm Satyam and this is chapter 5 Blender operators of my Blender Python scripting series. Sorry, it has been quite some time since I published a video, and because I was busy, and also because I tried to create these videos in one go, right? That's why I have failed like 10 or 10, most like 10 times on making this video, this chapter specifically, because there is a lot to teach and I am not sure what to teach you first so you understand it better, right? And this is also because I'm also making this video because of that one person who is actually watching my videos, right? So let's get started. So Blender operator, the simplest definition I can give you of Blender operator is like it's a function or a macro or simple lines of code that does something for me, right? But it is quite not actually function. You will understand when we see it, when we look at it clearly, and in the next chapter you will see how to create this Blender operator yourself, so you will be able to understand in more depth, right? So right now, think of Blender operators as simply as functions. So one example of Blender operator is subdivide tool. So for it, I'll go to edit mode and then subdivide, and you can see it is subdivided, right? Now this is example of Blender operator. More examples you can see these tools here. Every one of them is a Blender operator. Like insert faces, I can do something, right? It is also an example of Blender operator. Like any every tool here is actually a Blender operator, and anything that performs something or does something to the context or scene or any object of a Blender scene, then it is actually a Blender operator. And how you can know if it is a Blender operator? Well, it's easy. You just hover over some your tool or anything, and then you can see the dialog box appear. And in the dialog box, there's a Python code snippet you can see, which writes a bpy.ops dot some tool name, right? So there's the bpy.ops. This ops is a short for operators, right? And let's just look here, which is location x. Here when I hover over it, it says something like a bpy.data.object, so it's not uh, an operator, right? So this is Blender operator, and let's just review Blender documentation right now. So here's the Blender documentations. Now you will see that I have two tabs of operators here. The first one is operator bpy.ops that that we saw right now when where we were like hovering over it. You can see it here. And the next one is the structure, the Blender Python structure, right? So if you don't know, I might have not told you. So right, so there are two main things in Blender. First one is types or structure. It defines anything that Blender has to offer. Like right now we are looking at operators, so it is inside this one. So I'll just search it. So here you can see Blender operator bpy struct, and it is inside this types, and it defines the various properties of the operator class. So essentially operators are classes, not functions, but right now in the context of this video I want you to think of it as a function. All right, so this defines how the operator class and how to make those. And the bpy ops defines how we can use those, right? So there are two classes that you need to look at, and one, uh, the first one, the BPI ops, you can simply this application module BPI ops that you can see from here. Just click here, and it will redirect you to this page, which will tell you how to use those. All right. And for the structure, you need to go to types and then operator, right? So right now we are only going to focus on this part, the calling part or using part. In the next video we are going to look at the structure part, which in which I'll teach you how to create one. This video and the next video might be long, right? So let's just go through it. Will not read any of this stuff. I'll just go through with with the example, right? So here's an example. I'll just copy this example. So this example right now is for the subdivide tool, like I've told you. So I'll I'll go to edit mode and select all the faces and then run this code. You can see that it subdivides, right? Pretty easy for us to work with the operator, right? Yeah, well, essentially we need to do just this for an operator to work or to use an operator, but there are a lot of things to consider. Like suppose I'm in object mode and I run this code. Now think what will happen. Well, it will give me an error, and here you can see report error, run the main thing, and just ignore these lines. Look at here. Look here, like runtime error, operator, BPI ops, mesh, subdivide, poll failed, context is incorrect. Now we have already talked about context, right? So I don't think I need to tell you once again, but just simply the context is anything and everything that we see on the screen. Now context is incorrect, which tells me that for this mesh.subdivide operator, the context is incorrect. That means we need to change something, and we know that for subdivide tool to work or to use subdivide tool, we need to go to edit mode, right? See, it works. So it's as simple as that. Now, since you might be using Blender for a long time or sometime, then you know that it does not appear right here, and it on like I right clicked here and it gave me the object panel, and when I'm at edit mode I right click here and I get a different panel, right? This panel is full of operators. So basically Blender is like gatekeeping the operators from you because it was wrong context. So Blender is basically keeping you on the context of of the scene or anything, and then giving you all the functions or operators that you can do on that particular context, right? That's why you didn't know. So right now we are in the wrong context, like here. So for it to be right, we need to go to edit mode and then do it like this again. I've told you. Now the error that you saw here is tells me operators like subdivide dot poll failed, context is incorrect. Now this is here things get interesting. Now let's look at this here. So there are multiple things to consider, like execution context here, overriding context here, just this two for calling the operator, right? So uh, like we need we need the right context for the operator to work. For subdivide, like for subdivide it is edit mode, and there's a method called poll to check if the context is correct. bpy.ops.mesh.subdivide dot poll. If it is wrong, then the code will not work, and it will not give us error. Like I'll run this, right? It did not give me an error, and it is important because suppose you're making a, a big code like an add-on, then your user used that particular operator or anything and it gave error, and errors are kind of bad when you see it, right? And you sure don't want it to happen uh, when you're using something, right? That's why there's this poll method, and essentially whenever you run your operator, this poll will run along with it, and if the poll is wrong it will give you an error. But that's why you need to check the poll before you run the context, and if it is wrong, right, then you can, like, I'll just do it not here. So when the context is incorrect, when, like, right now I'm in object mode, then this is going to give me false, right? Now, and I'll negate this so it becomes true, which means if I'm in object mode or speaking, then I'm not in mode where this subdivide tool will work. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my mode to edit mode, and when I when I change this mode, I need to run uh, this this the scene to edit mode, and for it there's also an operator. So I'll just write the code here: bpy ops dot whatever it is, object mode set, right? Object mode set mode is equal to edit, and then I'll run it here. So you saw we were not in the right context, though it still worked, right? So this is how we can use our uh, operator, and you need to go and look at whatever whatever operator you want to use and write custom poll functions or poll conditions for it, and then work with it, right? So this is simply how we can use a blender operator. There's also one thing called uh, overriding context. So for it we use this overriding with context temp override. Now you know, there isn't much you can do with overriding context, so I advise you newbies to stick with, like, conditions to correct your context in cases, because most of the time you actually cannot work with it and you won't know which things will work, right? It is saying you would pass active object to temp override, but it is only for like minimal stuffs, like if there are multiple objects and you only want to do, like, an, an operation on some of them, then you can use overriding context. But if there are a lot of things, then it won't actually work, and blender doesn't actually support a lot of things in the overriding context right now. So I'll suggest you to just stick with this right now, but if I make an advanced tutorial in future, then I'll teach also teach you how you can work with overriding context. And there's also chat gpt. So if you, like, if something's not working for you, you can try to chat gpt it, and chat gpt will often tell you to work with overriding context or give you the code with overriding context, so you can try that too. All right, so this is it for this video. In the next video we are going to look at how we can create a blender operator, and it will be minimal too. I'm not going to tell you a lot of things. It will be for intermediate or advanced videos, because there's there are a lot of things to consider. Like here you can see there are tons of things, and like um, even in them we are going to use 4 or 5 of them at max, 4 or 5 of these things for our blender operator to work. And for production ready things we only use like 4 or 5 of them. All right, so thank you.